Welcome to Bollox Talks and Tangents. It's Thursday, 6:34, and we're ready to go. I got my hat on. Lenny's over here writing like crazy. Here, let me pull your mic over a little closer, Lenny, in case he always forgets. He's, the hat's a little tight on him.
Yeah.
So, but we have a fun show. We're doing holiday traditions and different things. I know we did one last year, very similar, about different Christmases. I focused on New Year's. And I let Lenny go with the holiday traditions around the world because he wasn't a part of the show last year when we did it. So I wanted to see what he was bringing to the table. Want to hear some family traditions. Blake and I pretty much have the same thing. It's changed over time, but we are in the same family. And Lenny, I want to hear some of your family traditions. Because you grew up in a different world.
Oh, most certainly.
So, I mean, we come from different backgrounds, sir.
Very true.
True. But first thing I want to talk about is our amazing sponsors. We have some great sponsors. St. Augustine Distillery and Citygate Spirits. These guys know how to do tastings and tours. Citygate's right there on our sponsor road, located right across from the fort. They just have some amazing flavors. Go over there and give them a chance. You got some last minute shopping to do. Get down there. Buy some spirits. If you want to pick someone's spirits up, buy them some spirits. All right. Meehan's Irish Pub. Reggie and the crew over there, they have their place decorated to the nines, and just
I voted for them twice.
Wonderful people.
Twice.
You voted for them twice.
Twice.
Okay.
Yeah. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
Got to support my man.
Yeah. No. I'm hoping they finish.
Second again.
Right there behind Hilton.
And I'll be working next year. Okay.
But I can tell you, over there they have amazing food. They have 3 bars in one. Great music, great atmosphere. Get down there, look at the lights, and go see Meehan's. All right, Abare, Kresge and Associates, the best CPAs in town. That's all you got to know about them. They can save you money like you would not even know. If you think you can do your taxes and save yourself some money, you are wrong. Give them a call. All right. St. Augustine Pirate Museum. I just love Cindy and the entire crew over there. They do an amazing job. They also have the Colonial Quarter and the Bull and Crown, and just a part of our community like no other company in town.
I've been on St. George Street more in the last probably 2 weeks than I have in the month before it, and there's always a line to get into the Bull and Crown.
Yeah,
right out the door.
They redid their menu and they redid their kitchen, and it's just a wonderful place to have a good meal.
Good.
All right, Coquina Coast Realty, commercial, rental properties, residential, any of those things I can help you out with. Give me a call, 904-669-7901. Are you playing with your tassel?
I am. Well chosen word.
Playing with the tassel. All right, and last but not least, we ate there yesterday, Kaiser's.
Man,
that roll, I'm addicted to that sandwich.
Yeah. Well, now I've upgraded to the Blake.
Okay.
Which is the White Street, but toasted.
Toasted White Street.
So I've named it the Blake in honor of our dear friend and producer, your son.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just a wonderful, wonderful sandwich. But, I do want to encourage anybody out there who's either throwing a Christmas party, a New Year's party, you don't want to do the cooking, go to Kaiser's. He will set you up with a beautiful platter, sandwiches. If you're looking for wine or beer for your event, he's got a great selection. If you're having an office party and you want to thank your staff before New Year's, get in. He'll get you a platter of sandwiches that will make them very, very, very happy.
Yeah. And it's good to be happy around Christmas.
It is. It is.
A lot of people aren't happy, and that makes me sad.
Oh.
Yeah. I've always been very fortunate around Christmas. I've been surrounded by good people.
I know you well enough that this is leading into something.
No, it's not at all.
Oh, I thought this was a word origin.
No.
I've been set up before around here.
No. I didn't mean to leave you in no man's land.
I've been there before too, believe me.
Well,
And where would that be?
well, No Man's Land. Actually, I'm going to get to that, but first we got to talk about Jefferson's bourbon.
Tommy.
In this bourbon, it's a very small batch blend of straight bourbon whiskeys. All right, and it's bottled for McLean and Kine, Louisville, Kentucky.
It's official.
Yes, it is 82.3 proof, 41.15% alcohol, and it's got Tommy embalmed. How do you say?
Embossed.
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 On the back.
Yep.
That's a quality. And it's a quality bourbon.
Yes, sir. It is. So. Is that the one that they rock to sleep on a ship? Was it this one? There's a bourbon that claims that they send it out to sea in ships, and the barrels are on the ships, and that's how they.
I don't think that's Jefferson's. I know what you're talking about now. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
oceans of vodka.
So
all right, it'll come to us. Probably as soon as we get off the air.
All right, No Man's Land.
Where is that?
All right, so No Man's Land actually, and I have it in my phone. So I know of No Man's Land that in World War I.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure,
trenches.
absolutely, yep.
Between the trenches is where I knew it, and I sent Blake a picture of 1914.
I know where you're going.
Okay, and there was a soccer match that was played on Christmas Day.
Yep.
That took place in No Man's Land, and Blake, there it is, right there. There's the picture,
Yep.
and it was the Germans and the French.
Yep.
Had a truce.
Yeah, they called it for the day.
They called it for Christmas Day in 1914 during World War I, and they played this. Oh, the picture's gone again. They played this soccer match in between the trenches on Christmas Day. And No Man's Land is the land that's kind of unclaimed.
Right, that they're fighting over.
They're fighting over. And it goes all the way back to 1086. Okay?
Right,
And it's
so
mentioned
we're a crusade?
it's mentioned in University of London in a book called Doomsday.
Oh.
Okay. And what it was talking about, it was describing the parcels of land that were beyond the London city walls.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And that was the first time it was used. And then it was referenced again in 1320. And it was all spelled together as No Man's Land to describe the territory that was disputed or involved a legal disagreement. So, obviously in the Middle East, there's a lot of areas that are considered now no man's land. But I didn't realize it when I thought it started in between the trenches in World War I, and it dates all the way back to 1086.
Yeah. On that temporary armistice, or that temporary ceasefire, once they finished the soccer game, they all sung Christmas carols.
Yeah.
That must have been really
They sang
eerie.
Silent Night.
Yeah, that must have been really eerie.
Yeah. I mean, singing, of all songs, Silent Night, and what those guys were going through, and sleeping in muddy, wet conditions, on Christmas Day in freezing cold.
And the next morning, somebody blew a whistle, and they started jumping and shooting at each other.
Yep, it cranked right back up.
Yep.
So, all right. So what you got? Word origins.
I have. Well, I need you to be calm. Like you said, it's a good time of year, but I don't want you to get your tinsel in a tangle.
Tinsel in a tangle.
Yeah. And that's just a simple one.
Yeah.
You need to keep your composure under stress. So don't get your tinsel in a tangle, which is a variation of don't get your knickers in a twist. There's no real origin for that, but I thought it was timely and appropriate. And trust me, if you're putting tinsel on a tree, there are times where you really need to keep your composure under duress, because that tinsel can be a little infuriating at times. And then you get into the whole conversation. Do you throw it on the tree? Do you put in bunches of it, or do you do it a strand at a time? You really need to be zen to do it that way.
Yeah, I'm OCD.
Yeah.
So you're a tinsel. I can't throw it in bunches. I'm
one at a time.
I got to have the tree balanced.
Okay, well that's for sure.
Everything's got to be symmetrical.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way with ornaments and stuff like that. The only time it's okay is like when little kids are doing it and like the whole bottom section's completely filled.
Exactly. Or me. We learned Julie and I learned a very, very interesting lesson this year. Don't wait until December 10th to buy your Christmas tree. Talking about slim pickings, which I could do as a word origin next week. We went there, and we got a beautiful tree, but, I'll put it to you this way. Do not need a ladder to get to the top of it. Fit in the back of the car, didn't need to go on the roof. It's quite lovely, it really is, but I already put a reminder in my phone for next year for December 1st to go get a tree and to try to get one that's at least 8 foot tall and has a little bit more girthful trunk because I have a stand for a large tree, and this little tree it was just close enough to get the screws into it to hold it. So yeah, we learned that lesson the hard way, but we love our tree.
Yeah. And I'm not a guy, and this is against a lot of what a lot of people think. I'm not a guy. I'm okay with an artificial tree.
Yeah, I can't do it.
See, and I know a lot of people are against that, but I'm okay with it. We have a cat.
Okay, keep it out of the tree.
We've always had animals.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the smell of a tree. Some people don't like the smell of a tree.
A pine tree. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, so I've been an artificial tree guy pretty much my whole life, with the exception of at my grandparents' house.
Okay.
So at my Nana and Papa's house, which I spent a lot of time. I grew up at my Nana and Papa's house, but I was very young, and this story tells about how the tradition went. My Papa, who Blake and I are both named after, right?
Sam. Yep.
Sam is his name, and he's kind of our patriarch on my mom's side. And he believed that Santa brought the tree.
Ooh.
So we wouldn't have a tree at my Nana and Papa's house. And one time I was in kindergarten, and I had not fully grasped the concept. At Papa's house, Santa brought the tree. So school was ending in kindergarten, and we had a tree at the in the classroom. So I thought I was doing the right thing, and I asked, well, what's happening to the tree? Can I take it to my Papa? So he has a tree. I wanted my Papa to have a tree.
Right.
I didn't understand the concept that
that there would be one there at a certain point in time.
On Christmas, because at my personal house there was a tree. So my grandfather was mortified that I had asked my school teacher, who gave me the tree.
Ooh.
And I had to figure out how to get the tree home, and he was just like, no, that's not how we do it here.
Right.
So, but I remember that at 5 years old, I asked my Mrs. Beebe for the Christmas tree.
Yeah, see, I was scarred by an artificial tree because my uncle had an artificial tree, and it was white, and he had one of those little lights at the foot of it that had the circular gels going around, and it was a blue gel, then it went to a pink gel, then it went to a green, and that was just so off-putting to me. Mm-hmm. It was a white artificial Christmas tree.
Did you cut down your own tree when you were a kid?
No.
Yeah.
We lived on Long Island. If we did that, we'd get arrested.
Yeah.
We'd get arrested.
All right.
Went into the neighbor's yard, hocked it right down.
Yes. All right. So obviously, with my dad's opinion on artificial and natural trees, I grew up with artificial trees, and I always believe like the ornaments are much more important than the tree itself.
Agreed.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
And the ornaments, the ones that are made.
Yeah, family heirloom
by
ornaments.
the family.
Sure. Yeah.
I have a little flower one. I think it's finally completely disintegrated. It's not on the tree anymore, and I don't know if I lost it. But I made a snowman in like second grade,
Okay.
and it was made out of like a hardened flour.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd repaint it and re-lacquer it a couple of different times over the years. But I think just within the last couple of years, my snowman completely disintegrated. But I know there's ornaments on the tree with Blake when he was like 4 and 5 years old, and those definitely mean more than the tree itself.
Absolutely.
So.
They become an heirloom. They're the ones you look forward to putting on every year. There's a story behind a lot of them, like your snowman. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Is there one particular ornament you remember when you were growing up?
We had, and it was something similar to that. I guess they were made out of clay, not necessarily out of a flour dough. But we had one for each member of our family: my Aunt B, my mother, my father, our dog Clem, my sister, and myself. And most of them were made in the shape of a stocking.
Okay.
And now, 35, 45, 55 years later, one of them may have survived. And as I'm talking to you now, I'm trying to realize that it did not make it onto our tree. So I'm not quite sure where it is, or that it actually didn't make it. Mm-hmm. But when I was much younger, there was a Hallmark gallery on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. And it was a giant card store upstairs, and there was downstairs there was a cellar that at Christmas they did celebrity Christmas trees. Mm-hmm. And this was the first place I saw themed Christmas trees, which I really like a lot, and did a couple of them in my restaurant. We did some in our house. But the one that stuck out in my mind was Joe Namath's, which was just, each ornament was just a red lipstick. And that was Broadway Joe Namath's.
Not pantyhose?
Nope. So that was that. But in my restaurant, one year, I saved champagne corks for ages and spray painted them all gold. And then my friend who had a cabinet making warrant in the...
So did you hang them mushroom part down, or fat part up, or fat part down?
Fat part up.
Okay.
So the ornament... And it was great because all you had to do was poke the ornament hanger into that.
Yeah.
But I had a friend of mine, Eli Haas, who is a delightful man and talented. You want to talk about focus. Mm-hmm. He hand-tied a red bow on every single one of these. So the tree was just gold champagne corks with red bows on the entire tree in my restaurant. Then the next year, I had people bake gingerbread cookies and decorate them, and we used those on the tree the following year.
So you could eat the ornaments too.
You could. Okay. You could. I remember doing mine with number 34 for Walter Payton and Sweetness. Mm-hmm. What a great ball player he was.
Yeah.
And then just last year or the year before, Julie and I went to Tom's was closing, the shell shop over.
Yeah.
And
world famous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And bought a bunch of scallop shells.
Okay.
In different colors, and made ornaments out of the scallop shells. And last year, our tree was just all scallop shells, brightly painted scallop shells in the tree.
We had a friend who made an oyster Christmas tree out of oyster shells.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like the theme of a Christmas tree. Sometimes it can be very clean and neat and themed. Otherwise, you just go haywire with random ornaments, and that's even almost as much more fun because you don't know what you're looking at. Everything's completely different.
All right. So what are? Actually, Stu, we got to finish our word origin.
Sure.
All right. My next one is with bells on.
Okay.
All right. So with bells on, it goes back a couple centuries, but it was origin goes to a poem that was very popular, and I sent it to Blake, and hopefully Blake can pull it up, and I'll try to read it. But it's a very interesting poem. There it is, right there, and it says, "Ride a cock horse to Banbury Cross to see an old lady upon a white horse, rings on her fingers and bells on her toes, and so she makes music everywhere she goes." And from that poem is where "with bells on" came from. I'll be there with bells on. So, and I don't know if you could see what a cock horse was. Did you?
I
did
couldn't
you see
tell.
it?
Is that like a
Here,
rocking
I'll show
horse?
you. So it's like a hobby horse.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard it called a cock horse.
No.
Until today.
No.
But that's what the poem was. There you go. Blake just blew up on what a cock horse.
There you go.
But did you have one of those growing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I
Hobby
got a hand-me-down one.
Yeah, the hobby horse.
Yeah. I got a hand-me-down, but we mostly used a broom.
Right.
That was our horse.
Right, and you didn't have to do much. You just put the corn end up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it was most of the time, because the horses on those hobby horses, I'm going to call it a cock horse from now on. A hobby horse, the head fell off most of the time.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
usually it was a weapon between brothers and sisters.
And then you just had a good stick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I'm wondering, as you recited that poem, if that was an inspiration for a couple of lines in a Grateful Dead song where she had rings on her fingers and bells on her toes.
It had to be.
So, you know.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Scarlet Begonias.
Yeah. So it had to be from that
Yeah,
poem.
rings on her fingers and bells on her toes. Well, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, good job, Grateful Dead.
There you go.
I know we'd get them in here eventually.
Yeah.
All right.
So what was your second?
I like this one a lot. Like turkeys voting for Christmas.
Turkeys voting for Christmas.
Like turkeys voting for Christmas.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever used this term before.
Well, you know, you can paraphrase it in a lot of different ways.
I kind of got a feeling for what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's people willingly accepting a situation that will end badly for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't go analogous into contemporary conversations, but it came from a 1977. The gentleman's name was David Penhaligon. Penhaligon. He was
That's a hellion of a name.
I'm telling you, he was a British parliamentarian. He was in the Liberal Party, and they were voting on some type of either Scottish independence back in 1977 or changing the apportionment of representatives in Scotland. I'm not quite sure the specifics of that, but he said, you know, us voting for the pact would be like turkeys voting for Christmas, which meant, you know, if you're a turkey and you're voting in favor of Christmas, it is not going to end well for you.
Yeah, you're voting for your own
demise. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I get a kick out of that one.
So what was the time frame of it?
1977 is when he said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I can't find a citation earlier than that. And to me, it seems like it's just a more delightful way of explaining cognitive dissonance. Mm-hmm. You know, people that are doing something against their better interest. Cognitive dissonance, I guess you're just talking more about something that, you know, would be counterintuitive to you supporting it for some reason. Mm-hmm. Like car manufacturers talking about electric cars before they were ready, you know, because they're cutting out the gas, or a gas company.
Yeah, I was going to say
a gas company talking about electric cars.
Or
exactly.
solar
Right,
vehicles
yeah.
or something.
So, but I like turkeys voting for Christmas. And it's interesting because, you know, nobody. I saw a bunch of citations for that. It pops up all over the place, and nobody said it has anything to do with Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question because I think of turkeys, and usually we usually have ham and turkey for Christmas. Right. But I think of turkey as a Thanksgiving
so
thing,
do I,
and not a Christmas thing.
Right. But this is it came from England, so it was a British quote, and I guess in Britain or in the UK, they're big on turkeys at Christmas, or a goose.
Gotcha.
You know? So yeah.
So good for the goose.
And the gander.
Yeah. So
I like that one a lot.
All right. So, you know, and before we get into some of the traditions around the world, because I know you got some over there that are really off the wall. But what is probably, when you open your presents growing up, was it Christmas Eve, Christmas Day? What was it like?
We did Christmas Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Christmas Day.
in the morning?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have the whole stairway and
we had
siblings?
I have my sister's 10 years older. Our house was, you know, I'm a firm believer in B.F. Skinner. I grew to the size of my box. We had a very, very small house, and I had a very, very small room.
Yeah, we're like goldfish.
Therefore, right, exactly.
You and I are like goldfish.
Yep.
So Blake had a big house when he was growing up. That's why.
I look at him. He towers over me.
Yeah, he towers over all of us.
Yeah, and no staircase, but we always had a tree. And what was wonderful is, you know, I come from a mixed marriage. You know, my father was Roman Catholic, my mother was Jewish, and we seldom, if ever, celebrated Hanukkah when I was growing up. But I was raised neither, and would go to temple with my mother on the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. I'd go to church with my father on Easter and Christmas. I was, you know, I studied them all. I understand them both. But it got to the point where my father would take our Christmas tree, and if there was a bald spot, if there was a spot where there weren't branches, not happening. He would trim a branch from someplace else, take out his drill a hole into the trunk, and put that in there, and he would fill any bald spots or blank spots in the tree, so the tree was symmetrical and it was full. But we also did, which is this is I love more than almost anything, is we would cut the trunk. And you would take and we saved the pieces of each Christmas tree trunk and put the year on the bottom of it.
Okay.
And then it didn't take. It took a mere 8 years, but we had 8 of them then. And my father would drill, or I guess we needed 9 of them in particular. Would drill a hole in the top, and we ended up making a menorah out of the 9 pieces of Christmas tree trunk.
Oh,
and we just line them up.
Nice blend.
Yep, absolutely. And we stick the candles in that, and that was fabulous.
That's a nice blend right there.
It really worked out well.
Yeah, and that's good planning. 9 years out.
Yeah, exactly. You got it right. That's foresight.
Yeah. So that's good planning.
Yeah. So that was always fun in our house. So we had those for many years. And you knew what year the trunks came from because they were dated on the bottom.
Yeah.
So it was real cool.
So Blake, is there any particular Christmas? I mean, I've been involved in every single one of yours, but I mean, is there any particular Christmas that stands out? Because I didn't ask you this question before the show. Hopefully, this doesn't come back and bite me in the ass. But that really stands out to you, where you're like, oh, that's what Christmas is supposed to feel like.
No.
You see, and you boys suffer through the fact that it might get crispy, but we had more times than that. We had snow on Christmas. In New York, it's the winter, and you get a white Christmas, and that's just wonderful.
Blake, do you remember snow being in our house?
No.
You don't remember that at all, huh?
I do remember like fake snow machines, but I don't remember like actual flurries like appearing outside.
No. I mean like footprints of Santa like tracking in.
Oh yeah, yes,
okay.
Yes.
You remember that? Okay, all right.
Good.
So I didn't know if you remembered those things.
I would hope so.
I sound like the horrible parent that like gave him 0 Christmas memories.
I think he's doing okay. I haven't heard one bod nor humbug from him, so he's okay.
I mean, to be fair, if you asked me before college, I would have probably said something, but college cynicism has affected my mind.
So it's affected your memories. But I mean, we would make Blake and Ty wait together before they could open the presents and come down the stairs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, because in our other house we had a big high roof with all the presents around and stuff.
Actually,
like that.
there was one Christmas I do remember. It was the one year that I'm not sure how much you can say of this, but I remember I think it was 2008 that you had a camera with you and you were filming us. Do you remember what that was about?
We were doing a little recording of your brother and autism and him, some of his struggles of where he, at that time we were going through a lot of ABA therapy. We were trying to do the progressions, and we still have some of those tapes, but we filmed a lot that entire 6 months of Ty and Blake and their interactions and the entire family's interactions. So yeah, we actually had like a professional camera set up for Christmas, and some of the reactions and the natural reactions of Blake and his brother.
Yeah, and in 2008 the boys were young.
Yeah, and like a lot of people don't realize how hard Blake worked to get to where he's at with his Asperger's, and Blake read at age 3. But he didn't have conversations with you until 4 or 5.
Which is he didn't like you then.
No, well, I wish that's all it was. I can tell you. But the man worked. The man worked really hard to get to where he's at, and some of the struggles of having Asperger's and his brother having autism. So very proud of my boys. So,
and justifiably so.
Yeah. So
I'm a big fan of Blake Blevins.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are. He's a good guy. So no, but that's what that was about, Blake. Is I think you would have probably been like 5 or 6 years old at the time.
Yeah,
your brother would have been like 3.
I remember that, but because we were kids, so he had to say, Santa, we're filming it for Santa Claus to see if you were good boys this year.
Yeah. and have that carry over for the entire following year.
There's always some bribery involved around it,
man.
So.
You got to stay one step ahead.
Yeah,
I remember one year, and I'm a shrewd little investigative demon at times, and my mother would wrap all the Christmas presents, and one year, and I go looking for them. I wouldn't open them, but I go looking to see what was what. One year, my mother made the mistake of wrapping everything in tissue paper. I was the year I got a vacuum form. I don't know if you remember the vacuum forms. Okay, it was a machine that had a light in it and a pump, and you would put a piece of plastic mold into it, and then you put some, and then it would heat up and melt that, and then you would pump it, and it would suck the air out, and you would have whatever you formed, whether it was a race car or a dinosaur or whatever else. But she wrapped it in multicolored tissue paper, and all I did was put my hand across the top of it, press it down, and I could read what was the box.
Yeah.
So that was the last time she ever did that.
Well, I mean, at my house, my parents were not very crafty about where they hid the presents.
Right, well.
And they'd say, "Don't go in this room, don't go in this room," but they spent a lot of time like not around the house. And we didn't have a whole lot of video games and other things to entertain us, so me and my sister would go in that room.
Of course.
And I ruined every Christmas I think I ever had as a kid.
You know what was coming, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I remember one year, my sister, like I said, she's 10 years older than I am, and I guess somebody gave her a kitten. I don't think she got it on her own, but she might have, and she put it in the basement. And, my mother, my father thinks what I'm hearing noise. What's in the basement? And my sister would say nothing. And my parents go, okay. And then something else would happen, and they say, "You sure I'm hearing things in the basement?" My sister would say, "No, don't worry. It's just nothing. It's nothing." And it finally got to the point where my sister had to fess up when my parents went downstairs and found a kitten in the basement. That my sister named the cat Nothing, so she didn't have to lie when my parents asked her what it was.
It's just nothing.
It's nothing.
Okay.
Exactly. It was great.
That's a great name.
I thought that was brilliant for the situation.
Yeah.
I really did.
It's a great name.
So yeah. So that was nothing. I don't think that cat lasted too long, honestly.
So in your house, I mean, you grew up in
Long Beach, New York.
Long Beach, right? You grew up
Beautiful
there.
place, yep.
So was it a coal burning stove, or did you have central heat, or what? Because we had natural
furnace.
gas.
Right.
We had natural gas in our house, and they were from like floor to ceiling heaters, and that was what heated the house. We usually only needed one of them to heat the entire house. We rarely had both of them on. But I was just wondering, like, what was the heat source? Because I remember that being like you'd set your clothes near the heater.
Right. Oh yeah.
And all our clothes, like when it was cold, sat in the hallway because it was
socks
in the
and
hallway.
underwear all winter long, right on the radiator. We had radiators in the
Radiators,
house.
okay.
Yeah, radiators before we went to baseboard. We had radiators, and it had been a coal burning furnace that got converted to gas.
Okay.
And I love my mother would tell me the story of how you make tick marks 1, 2, 3, 4, cross it for 5.
Yeah.
My mother
Tallies,
learned.
yeah.
Yeah, my mother learned how to do that when she was responsible for them dropping the bags of coal when she was a child. The bags of coal would come down through the basement window in a coal chute down to where the furnace was in the basement, and my mother would have to tick how many bags of coal we got, and that's how she learned how to mark like that. Yeah, and then it got converted, and then it was interesting because you saw this big white behemoth down there, and it took a long time to realize that all that white around it was asbestos.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you. Yeah. I mean, it's good as long as you don't eat it.
Right. Yeah, as long as it's not frazzled.
I mean, like in Pennsylvania, where Papa was from, it was in Tide, just outside of Johnstown. Believe it or not, it's called Tide.
Right. Okay.
All right.
They called it Tide?
It was Tide was the community he grew up in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a risky name.
Yeah, the Johnstown flooded.
Yeah,
Yeah, all that. Yeah, that's where he grew up. It was coal is what they did. So they had the coal bin, they had the furnace, and that's what heated the house. In Tennessee, now my family my grandfather in Pennsylvania was poor. They were coal miners and just lived off of whatever they could do to make a living. In Tennessee, they were farmers and they were dirt poor. They had a wood burning furnace in the middle of the house. It was only a 2-bedroom house, but I can tell you the one Christmas I remember being in Tennessee, it was snowing outside and it's wood slats, no insulation, and you could look through the slats and see the snow. And there was an outhouse. We didn't have indoor plumbing there. There was a pump which he got when he got his check from I-75.
Okay.
So he moved the pump from outside the house into the kitchen. So there was water in there, but there was no toilet in there. If you had to go, you either went in the chamber pot or you went to the outhouse. And
Tennessee could get cold.
Yeah. Oh, it was right there, just outside of Chattanooga, kind of up in the hills. Yeah. It's called Rossville, Tennessee, over there. You do a lot of that over there.
Yeah.
And
don't mention anything about what I said about the many tobacco farms up in Tennessee.
Oh yeah. So like Blake. When my parents moved up to Tennessee, Blake went up there with me one time, and they were drying tobacco. And I don't know if you've ever seen how they dry tobaccos on the sides of barns and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm driving by, and I know Blake had never seen it. I think Blake might be 8 years old at the time. And I go, Blake, you know what that is? Without a hesitation, Blake says, "Is that a rubber chicken farm?" Without hesitation, 8 years old, completely serious about it, but it was the tobacco that was hanging from the barn. Rubber chicken farm. So I was like, "Yep."
There you go. Right. Uh-huh.
Nailed it.
Excellent. Excellent.
So what Christmas really stands out to you when you were growing up? Is there a particular one?
No. I mean, being in an Italian family, we spent every Sunday, literally every Sunday, going to my grandmother's house, which is about half an hour away in Hewlett, which was one of the 5 towns, not far. But it was a command. It wasn't even a question. Yeah. I mean, I remember my grandmother passed away when I was either 15 or 16. I forget. I lost an uncle when I was 15 or 16, and my grandmother when I was 15. And one was one summer, one was the next summer, and I forget which was which. I remember that my grandmother came to Long Beach, my father's mother. My mother's mother lived with us in the summers, and then was smart and went to Beverly Hills and then Las Vegas with my aunt, my mother's sister, for the winters, because my grandmother, my mother's mother, was no fool. She laid that out. She had summers and the winter was fancy.
My grandparents always made fun of all their other siblings.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why live in Pennsylvania? Why live in Indiana? Why?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I come from a small family. Me and my sister, my mother, my father, and then my aunt married a man named Russ Morgan, who was from a coal mining family outside of Scranton.
Okay.
And he ended up having a little bit of lung trouble. So when he was in the coal mine as a kid, and the doctor said, "You know what? Here, play a wind instrument." And he started playing the trombone and became an orchestra leader, a composer, a trombone player, and made a brilliant career. When they built the Dunes Hotel, which is where the Bellagio is now in Las Vegas, they built a room called the Top of the Strip for the Russ Morgan Orchestra. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah.
My grandfather was a coal miner, and he had the scars on his back of where you were just so hunched over, and like you just... you come out bleeding. You didn't know you were bleeding, and he ended up dying of lung cancer is what got him.
Yeah, and that's what got Russ out of the coal mine was his ability to play the trombone, and he was told to do that to work on his lungs. Playing a wind instrument, a brass instrument. Yeah. There was enough lung power in that it cleared it up, and he was fine.
Yeah, my grandfather volunteered. Like when the war came, he was like, "Whew."
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Out of the hole and into the fresh air and sunshine. I don't care if they're shooting.
I'm out of here. Yeah. So
as long as he didn't get in a submarine. That's all.
He was in the Pacific, and he was a bulldozer guy in the Pacific, and he did a lot.
CB?
He wasn't a CB officially a CB, but he did pretty much the same as the CBs.
Okay, I know last night you mentioned we were talking about Tom Hanks and Greyhound, which is, by the way,
excellent
fabulous movie.
I just saw it last week.
Yeah, for the first time.
First time I saw it.
It was gut wrenching. It was fraught. There was a lot of woof. But again, and you were talking about how Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks have really done
World War II
brilliantly, and they've got another one coming out. And I forget which one this is. It might be the Air Force or Air Corps. But did you see the Pacific that they did?
No, I've seen certain episodes of it, and I really need to watch it from start to finish because I watch Band of Brothers. Religiously. On HBO, and I probably need to rewatch it.
Band of Brothers.
I
just watched it start to finish for the first time 3 months ago.
Oh, really?
And then when
Well, I mean,
immediately,
we're going back 15 years.
oh, I
ago,
know,
20 years
I know.
ago. Yeah.
Well, I'm slow at times.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have HBO for a while, and I
Yeah.
worked nights. But Pacific, it's the same type of thing. They take a core group from where they start. To, oh my goodness! I mean, just the cinematography, the way they do it, the way they, how you get sucked into these people's lives, and how again fraught it is, and how fearful. I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine being in that situation.
No.
it's just
No,
god
and
awful.
it's a different world, and that's why they're the greatest generation.
Yeah.
I mean, and are you a Gen? What are you? You're not a Gen X. Are you
No, I'm a
boomer?
baby boomer.
You're
Yeah,
a boomer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because Gen X starts in '64, I think.
Yeah, no, I was born in '58. Yeah.
So you're a boomer.
I'm an old geezer.
Yeah.
And my
But you're,
father.
you're a baby of the boomers.
Correct. Yeah, I'm toward the back end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
You're
yeah.
a baby of the boomers.
Yeah.
Like, what's your generation? Z.
Gen Z.
I can't keep them straight.
What are you?
Z.
Generation Z.
Yeah, it's
Zoomer.
very confusing. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, because
I'm
now
a-
there's a lot of them. All of a sudden,
I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm happy to be a Gen Xer because I mean we kind of got the best of both worlds. Like we were allowed to play in the streets,
right? Okay.
you know, and we were allowed to be adventurous enough to be tough enough
right
to get
to
through
make your own mistakes.
to get through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You know, but we also were at the front end of the computer age.
Right.
You know, I mean, I had
It's
you
not
know,
me.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not great at it, but I'm efficient enough with the computers to still bridge the gaps between stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to be an Xer, a Gen
Okay.
Xer. So, and I grew up in a time when there really wasn't a war.
Right. Yeah. Which is and just coming back to one thought. You watch Band of Brothers. You watch the Pacific. You watch the Greyhound, and you really need to show that to more people and more people in power to tell them why is there war. Just
Yeah.
grow the frick up.
Yeah.
Please stop it.
But it's money,
because
it's money, power, religion, and women.
yeah.
Well, that's
Well,
the history of it.
Helen, right? Yeah, thank
That's
you,
the history
thank you,
of it.
Troy.
Yeah.
They
face-
named a war after
the
you, as a
face-
matter of fact, right?
The face that launched the 10,000 ships.
Yeah.
right?
But it's that's the thing that I don't get, because the people that are sending the boys, men, and women off to war to fight aren't risking themselves. So all of a sudden, send them out there, put them on the front lines, and sit in the middle of put them in no man's land and let them work out a truce.
Well, that's why I love, and a lot of people don't really get. They listen to music, but they don't like the song "Fortunate Son."
Yeah.
It was about not Civil War, about Vietnam and those things, and I can tell you right now. I mean, if there was a draft at the time for my boys,
Right.
I would have had a real tough time with government at that point.
Well, you'd be speaking Canadian, eh?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would have had a tough time with
Well,
it. I'm not gonna lie.
in full disclosure, I am a fortunate son. I'm born in 1958. Only 2 years didn't have to register for selective service. If you're
Yeah.
born in 1958 and 1959, they reinstituted it in 1960. So I never had to register for the draft, which was fine. Now it winnowed down when
I had
I
to
became
register.
18. Right, but they didn't.
The draft was not active, but I
Right.
did have to register.
Right.
I did as well.
You
But
did
yeah,
too?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. But I didn't. So I have no draft card. I didn't have to dodge anything. I more than likely would have gone to college. But my father, he got drafted, and fortunately he was a bright individual. He went to OCS. He went to Officer Candidate School, and became. Congress had the sense to make him an officer and a gentleman.
Yeah,
And
my
my
dad-
father was always a gentleman anyway. He didn't need Congress for that shit.
My father wasn't a gentleman, but he was deaf in one ear.
Okay.
So he was right at the Vietnam time, and my grandfather on my mom's side, volunteered for World War II. One of his brothers died during Pearl Harbor.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Edward died during Pearl Harbor. So.
Yeah. That's and I don't know. It came up a conversation. I don't know if it was at trivia or it might have been last week's trivia or something. We were talking about the Arizona Memorial. We were talking about solemn places. Was that the conversation we were having?
It was, we were talking about places like Ground Zero.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ground Zero and the Arizona are the only two places where, to me, at those memorials, and I've been to the Vietnam, I've been to
the Vietnam Veterans Wall is very moving.
It's moving, but I can tell you, standing over top of the Arizona, because you're standing on top of
you
the
see
Arizona.
the oil slick is still there.
It's only 3 feet below below the water.
Yep.
And the oil's still percolating,
Yep.
and you're standing over 500 men's grave.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I was there with a lot of Japanese, and they were very respectful. And it's to me, that and Ground Zero are the two most emotional places I've stood.
I have a very, very, very difficult time being at Ground Zero now. Mm-hmm. I still do. I haven't been able to bring myself to go into the museum. Mm-hmm. I was lost people in the attack, and then had just got elected. I mean, we were campaigning and had to stop campaigning. My first attempt at city council when I won my first seat, and we had to put the campaign in abeyance because of the attack. And after we won the election, there was a company in town, Surf Glass, that got the contract to replace the windows in a building that was literally the one right in back of the firehouse that was on Ground Zero. Mm-hmm. You know, the firehouse that was across the street from the trade tower, and there was a building there. And
there's a memorial there now, too.
And and they took us in to see what was there. So we got in there, and it was still a frozen zone. Mm-hmm. So we had just won the election. I had just been sat as a city councilman in Long Beach, and we go in, and it was, you want to talk about just, you don't know what to do. I mean, you're seeing painted on the walls, morgue with an arrow going that way. There's nothing. We went into this building, and all you saw were papers everywhere, dust everywhere. The pit was still smoking and smoldering.
We went there. We went there probably 6 years, maybe 8 years after it, and they hadn't built what's there now. They were starting to dig the memorial.
So it was actually before, it was just before like the 10th anniversary of it. So they were still building everything up, but we were able to do the walking tour.
We did the walking tour, and I remember Blake actually saying to me, "Dad, why you're crying?" And I'm just listening to actual voices where you're standing there and you're looking at this space and you're like, oh my gosh.
And I watched a couple of the documentaries that they did, the anniversary, in September. There was a tremendous amount of documentary footage and stuff. And more and more is coming out that people had actually taken footage, not knowing what they were filming at the time. And you're watching this, and you're seeing these people, the firefighters, the captains, the people that are running the show there, who
knew that they were probably going to die.
I have a friend,
and Blake and I went back this year, so we saw it 12 years ago, and we saw it again this year.
It's still there's a friend of mine, a gentleman from Long Beach, who was a fire captain, who wasn't on site at the time. He heard what was going on. He commandeered a police boat or a fire boat and came in to the World Financial Center off of the Hudson,
right there at the harbor. Yeah,
and came in and went in and got into one of the buildings, and the freaking building landed on him. Al Fuentes, one of the greatest people in the history of the world, and you want to know a hero? I mean, I'm tearing up.
Yeah,
I just love the man. And he was able to get a radio call out, and they were able to get him out from under the building as one of the last people they were able to get out. The building landed on this man, went in there to save people.
He was supposed to make it.
Oh, my goodness. And he's just, I mean, this was, I mean, he and I, we would go to career day every day, every year in the Long Beach schools. I would show up as a chef. Al would show up with his rescue board as a rescue firefighter and a search and rescue guy.
Hard to compete against that when you're...
Yeah, well, I know, believe me.
You're in the same room with him. I'd go as Parks and Recreation Director, and there'd be a firefighter beside me. I was like, man,
yep.
Why couldn't I get a construction guy?
But I'm telling you, Al Fuentes, man,
Yeah.
I love you, my friend, so very, very much. What a just. I mean, a true hero, and unassuming. You know, he gets embarrassed when people people try to praise
that's
him.
Blake's mom's maiden name.
Yeah, Fuentes.
Fuentes.
Yeah,
Fuentes
yeah.
is
Fuentes. Yeah. But just and then other people, other five, and let alone the financial people, all the I mean, there was a community
but
about 2
doesn't Christmas make you think of things like that, like what got us to where we're at today? And we're way past, like we should be telling about our sponsors.
Sponsors, yes, and then we'll save the rest of this for another day.
But I mean, doesn't Christmas bring you to those things, like moments in your life where you're like, wow, we still got here.
Yes,
and we're appreciative, and like you're
appreciative
of the Al Fuentes.
Yeah, I'm
all right,
I'm grateful.
And we're also appreciative of our sponsors, Kaiser's Deli. Amazing food. Just keep crushing it, Kurt. We appreciate you guys
very much. So. And for those of you scoring at home, I know today is Thursday. Go on Friday. Please go to Friday. But I'll be there working all day Saturday. So if you really want some trouble, I'll come in and make your sandwiches.
Stop in there because it's amazing. It's amazing.
Put your orders in for New Year's, please.
Yeah. Coquina Coast Realty, commercial or residential, give me a call, 904-669-7901. St. Augustine Pirate Museum, over 800 artifacts. If you have not been there, take advantage of it. You get a couple days off. Get down there. Check out St. Augustine Pirate Museum. Abare, Kresge and Associates is coming to the end of the year. You got some businesses. You're working on your budget. These are the guys to talk to set yourself up to have a much better year financially. Meehan's, Reggie, my man. Just amazing food.
Dinner there just the other night.
Appreciate what you're doing for the community. Appreciate your staff.
Mm-hmm.
So much love for that entire crew over there.
Very much.
3 bars in one. Meehan's, I can't tell you enough. Great food, great people, great drinks.
We're going to celebrate our Christmas tradition. Julie and I have a Christmas tradition. We go to the Oyster Bar at Johnny's Oyster Bar upstairs, and we get a couple dozen oysters, a bottle of champagne, and that's how Julie and I spend Christmas Eve every year.
Oh, man,
been
that's
doing it for 5, going on 6 years now.
That's fun.
And we've only been in town 8. Yeah. So so it ain't bad.
That's fun. Speaking of great drinks, City Gate Spirits and St. Augustine Distillery, you guys over there, you rock it. If you need a Christmas present late, get over there, go see those guys. They can take care of you.
Funny you mention that, Troy, because I did a little Christmas shopping over there just 2 days ago, and I bought a couple of bottles as a Christmas gift. Mm-hmm. For me!
For you!
For me!
Happy Christmas for me!
Yes, thank you very much. I'll be bourboned up.
All right, I know we want to talk about, is there, you said you had an Icelandic.
I got 2 Icelandic ones
Icelandic,
for you.
And I just came back from Iceland.
Well, that's why I did them.
The island about blew up.
Right.
After we left. So what's some of the Icelandic ones? Because you mentioned some, but I didn't know any of them.
I got 2 of them. One is right up Blake's alley, actually. There's an Icelandic tradition where everybody in the family gets a book on Christmas Eve and then spend the rest of the night reading that book. Each individual book.
As a dyslexic guy, I hate that one.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. Well, it could get you an audiobook.
Yeah, audio.
I don't know if that's cheating, but that could work.
It would take, like, everyone else would be finished with their book, and I'd be like, hold on.
But the funky one is the 13 Yule Lads.
Okay.
So there's 13 Yule Lads. They're sort of a cross between Santa and dwarfs.
Okay.
And there's 13 of them, and it's the 13 nights leading up to Christmas. And if you're a good child, they give you a gift in your shoe each night.
Okay.
If you're a bad child,
I think we talked a little bit about that last year.
Okay.
About gifts in the shoe.
they leave you a rotten potato. But there's a couple of interesting characters there because of the 13, each one has a different personality.
Okay.
The 13 Yule Lad's mother is Grylla, Gryla, and if kids are really bad, they end up at Grylla, and she'll boil them in a cauldron. So that's not a good thing. Yeah,
that's what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
but
don't be bad.
But there are 2 of them that I found were very, very interesting. One was called pot liquor.
Pot liquor.
Yeah,
Okay.
and liquor with a K, not liquor like
Not like
my
liquor,
kind of liquor.
Not
right.
like we're drinking.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he would go into people's houses and eat all their leftovers and then lick the pot clean.
Pot liquor.
Okay. The other one...
We call that my dog Blue.
Excellent. Little big hound dog?
Nope. Blue's a little Australian blue healer.
Okay.
So Australian cattle dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Brilliant dog. Brilliant dog.
Well, if you're a
Blue's
working
smart,
dog,
isn't she? Like
She is definitely.
Yeah.
Blue could be the smartest dog I've ever owned, and I've always had a dog.
But she wasn't the sweetest though.
No, she was not the sweetest. Your dog,
Mm.
Athena, is by far. He had a German Shepherd that was just pure love.
wow. Okay.
So, pure love.
Good.
So,
But there is another one of these Yule lads named Skyr Gobbler.
Scare Gobbler.
Yeah, Skyr, which is Icelandic yogurt.
Okay.
And as the name says, go and eat up all your yogurt.
He would take your. It sounds like these goblins are not exactly the most friendly. They seem
Yeah,
very
they're a little
hungry.
mischievous.
Seem very hungry.
They're a little mischievous. Well, I don't know about the other 11 of them. I only got these two that by name.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So speaking of food, speaking of being
I always like
being
speaking of
hungry, you're from Long Beach, grew up in that area.
Mm-hmm.
On New Year's Day,
Mm-hmm.
what was the tradition? What did you have? What was your meal?
depending on how old I was, it would either be a cheeseburger and a vanilla shake to take care of the hangover,
Okay.
or yeah,
But you didn't have a tradition?
no. Yeah, my
See, I do black eyed peas cornbread.
okay,
I do a cornbread. There's only one type of cornbread in my world.
which is
Jiffy cornbread.
Jiffy. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, it's a little sweeter.
as opposed to Washington,
yeah,
because that's the other box one.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, clearly not happening there.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that exists in the South.
I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I know Jiffy does for sure. And by the way, talk about pricing and stuff.
Uh-huh.
When they became more than 50 cents a box, which by the way they're back down to 50 cents a box.
I was going to say I've never seen them over 50
It
cents.
used to be 4 for $1.
Yeah.
25 cents a box of cornmeal
Yeah.
for cornbread mix.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good stuff.
I was going to say I don't think I've ever seen them over 50 cents.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
okay.
So you got to be careful with that. Yeah, well, so that's good. Yeah, little
But
sweet,
but you
good.
didn't have. But I mean, I know there was
Yeah.
cabbage and casings, and some of the things that I did. I wanted to find out like what represented what, and the black eyed peas and ham hocks, and it has to do with the having pork, or the pigs are always rooting forward. They're always moving forward. So it was about moving forward and
Okay.
and some of those things. Cornbread represented actually gold.
Gold.
Yes, so fortune.
Okay.
So it would bring you fortune. Some people do long noodles. And
Yeah,
that,
the Asian traditions. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Asian New Year traditions.
and that represents long life.
Longevity,
Yeah, Scandinavians, they do fish. They do herring and fish, which is for abundance.
Okay.
So, but I'm surprised you didn't have.
We would just go to my grandmother's house and feast because my father's mother was one of the most amazing cooks in the history of the world. And I may have said this a couple of times on a different show for a different reason, but she would make a raisin bread every week. And, people bitch about how the raisins sink to the bottom.
Yeah.
My grandmother's raisin bread, the raisins were even throughout. She would make a marble cake every week. And there was one chocolate swirl in it that if you cut a slice out of this week, next week, the week after that, it would look like it came out of one cake.
Yeah.
But she would make a roast fresh ham, and then she would make her either ravioli or gnocchi. And when my grandma made gnocchi, oh my goodness, that was some of the best potato dumplings you ever had.
All right, and one of the ones that I did, and I didn't know anything about this. It is a Vasil Lapita cake. Vasilipita cake.
Right, that's your
or
Greek one.
pie.
Right.
All right, and people would put coins in it and treasures, and that was a tradition. Did you know any families that ever did that? I thought that was really cool.
No, not at all.
And it's a lot of different styles of cakes. I mean, I have 2 different styles in
Right.
there, and it's like, but it has to do with putting the coins in it and baking them in the cake, and sounds very dangerous.
Well, it's a choking hazard, but,
Yeah.
hey. What I find interesting and what I find fabulous about that is that food is just absolutely universal, because that's a Greek dish you were talking about there, but it's no different than the king cake that they do in Mardi Gras with the that you're looking for the little baby in that,
Yeah.
or there's other dishes that people are hiding coins and things. You can get a ravioli, you can get a dumpling, you can get a kreplach.
Yeah.
There's each culture has their
Every
same
culture has
variation,
something, and that's
and
what
they're
I
all the
love-
same.
That's what I love about it, and it's like a new beginning, and all of them celebrate. So, without looking, I don't know if you've already looked.
No.
Do you know where the largest New Year's Eve celebration in the world is? New York City's number 3.
Okay. No.
Give me throw a city out.
Beijing.
Beijing, not terrible, but not one of the top 5. All right, Sydney, Australia.
Baby.
Yeah, Sydney, Australia.
Been there, yeah.
Number 2 is Rio de Janeiro. All right.
Partying on the beach.
Number 3 is New York City.
Okay.
Number 4 is Goa, India.
Goa. Yeah, Goa.
Goa,
yeah,
India.
Yeah.
And I would say Goya. Goa,
No, Goya is a line of Hispanic products.
I understand. Still would have said it.
Okay.
All right. And number 5, which is one that really shocked me because I don't see it as a huge population city. Like the other ones are huge population
Right.
cities. Edinburgh, Scotland.
Really?
Number 5.
Okay.
All right. You know what? That's the end of our show. I want you
Really?
to have an incredible Christmas.
Yeah,
And-
we're off next week.
and, we are off next week.
You'll miss us.
So
we'll be back.
You won't see us until after the new year.
All right.
So,
Healthy and safe. That's the most important thing,
Blake,
people.
you got anything you want to add?
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, other holidays.
Peace on
have
earth.
fun.
Yep. All right. And
Peace on earth.
yes, that would be a
Please.
beautiful, beautiful thing. But this is Bollox Talks and Tangents. Appreciate you guys. Please share the show. We appreciate you guys giving us an entire year of watching and just being a part of our lives. We'll see
Very
you
much
next
fun.
year.
Very much fun.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.